And then we're going to talk about the Biden campaign later, but I'll just say for the Biden campaign, I think this helps them get Joe out, right? Because Trump looks so strong and Biden looks so like out in outer space. And it just makes the case like Biden can't beat Trump. Trump's like what Mason said, the rock and roll star with his fist in the air, and Biden can't even complete a sentence, and they got Obama against him, Clooney and all that. I think it helps them get Joe out probably after the RNC convention, get someone new in there, maybe pick them at the DNC convention, sort it out at DNC convention, and then they have a good shot to beat Trump. And it's better for them because it's like it was serious and it showed Trump being strong to get Joe out, but it didn't kill Trump, which would have created like this huge mess. Because if Biden wins after they kill Trump, it's going to be like a civil war, basically. I don't know. I think it's good for Biden campaign. That's the last of my stuff.
It's good for Biden? There's no way it's good for Biden.
Hi, everybody. This is John Koenig back from Real Veteran News. I'm here with three good friends, and we've got our four-person veteran news analysis show today. I would like my friends to introduce themselves. We'll start with Matt, who is newest guest and filled in last minute for my friend Chris. So thanks a lot, Matt, for coming in last minute.
I'm Dr. Matt Tipton. I practice internal medicine in Mississippi and Tennessee. I was in 3rd Ranger Battalion for 5 years from 96 to 01. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Matt. I'm Jesse Hunyon. I'm an Army guy, still reservist, over 22 years now, was an engineer officer, now logistician. And on the civilian side, I work for the Air Force.
And I guess me, I spent 3 years, 3 months active duty in the 609th ACOMS, which was kind of the 9th Air Force, so Air Force Central Command from 05 to 08. And then as a government contractor for 6 years. Now I'm a freelance software developer, and I can make just about anything. Which is kind of fun.
Yes, Mason loves his apps. So
I do. They're not that profitable yet, but shortly.
Okay, so we got 4 topics, 4 veterans, 4 topics. Obviously, the Trump assassination attempt was yesterday, so we're going to talk about that first. Then go on to the Biden campaign's woes, then the NATO Summit that happened last week, and then Project 2025, which is the conservative plan for after Trump goes back to the White House. So we're going to start off with the Trump assassination attempt. He was at this small farm town in Pennsylvania, and we have basically all been watching the news. We know what happened. The guy got on the roof, he took his shots, he missed Trump, he had his ear but basically missed him. We all know that there was some sort of huge oversight in the planning of the security for this event. Most of the young people on the ground did the best they could and everything. So I'd like for us all to kind of go around. We can go with Matt first because he's the newest, and I'll go last. So.
Just from social media, I'm attached to a lot of law enforcement guys and a lot of veterans and just your normal feed. I'm seeing a lot of outrage at how could this even happen? It's 150 yards approximately away. A guy was able to get in an elevated position with a long rifle and take this shot. And I'm seeing a lot of conspiracy theories on how that would happen. I guess there's also just incompetence. But somebody obviously dropped the ball or straight up allowed him up there. I think it's going to come out to be security was just dropped, and it was the local law enforcement was doing the exterior and Secret Service was doing the interior security. I don't know.
But isn't that on the Secret Service though? If the building wasn't covered,
you're responsible for everything your unit fails to do or does. So if you delegate something and it doesn't get done, it's on you. It's unacceptable. The 1 inch to the right and President Trump's head would have exploded from that bullet. And I don't even know the plans for succession at this point. He doesn't have a vice president nominated. How would the war chest move around? We could do an hour-long episode just on what would have happened had he been killed to the Republican side of the ticket. Thank God.
I think Don Jr. would have just stepped in for him.
Maybe, but I don't know if that's legal and if he can spend the campaign funds on himself. It would be a very interesting legal thought experiment to see what would happen, and I don't know the answers to that. But, tragedy was avoided for Trump. 2 other people died, including the shooter, and 2 others are critically injured. I saw the brief comments from the shooter's father. His life is ruined. He's not going to recover from this. It's a horrible day for America.
That could have been worse. All right. Who's next?
You say it could have been worse off the cuff, but yeah, no, it really could have been worse. A lot of the social media outcry is saying, hey, if this would have happened, it could have caused civil war, all sorts of crazy stuff. I mean, it really could have been worse. And yeah, just trying to think through what would have happened. It's similar to, if Biden were to exit the stage now, the same thought process would need to occur if Trump didn't survive that. What I was impressed with was the reaction of the Secret Service after the incident occurred. That's what I saw. Yeah, there were failures, and the Secret Service will be using this to train on forever. But I did appreciate their reaction when it did occur.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. All right, Mason. So.
I mean, I agree with you. Secret Service didn't have any negligent discharges. They responded pretty quickly. I'm sure there was an element where they're like, all right, stay down until they know the situation's clear. Then, Trump was allowed to get up. Badass moment for Trump. I mean, that is probably the most rock and roll image in history. He's the man right now. I said in the last one, they made Trump look, everything they do is going to make him look better. And as far as the actual tactics of the situation, I'm kind of curious as to how big is his security detail, because they're showing him pictures 2 counter snipers was seems like was allocated in total. And I would guess that there's no way that there's that few, because this is in a rural environment. So maybe they had a minor team. They reduced the team down in size, but in an urban environment, that's a much more challenging situation. So the fact that this was able to happen, he clearly needs to have a bigger security team.
Well, that's what the Secret Service, people on TV that used to be in the Secret Service are saying is they're going to come out and say, oh, we didn't have the resources. You pulled our resources or whatever, but they could have just put a helicopter up. They could have put a cheap drone up. And like Matt said, they should have had the local cops surround that building, because if this kid, whatever, and I was talking to Matt before we started, and the way I see it from this kid's perspective is obviously hates Trump, or he wants to be the guy who killed Trump or something like that. He's got his little gun, loads some bullets in it, goes down there. Obviously hasn't had too much training because he whiffed, but he cased that building out. He'd been there before. He did his recon before. He was got all the spots where he thinks he could do it before the rally started. And then when they came, he popped on a Trump hat, walked around, no cops, or the cops aren't paying attention. Maybe there was a cop out there, but Matt was saying, he was sexting in his little car in the air conditioning, or he was trying to watch Trump's speech or something like that. And the kid just slipped right by him, in a movie or whatever, or Splinter Cell or something. And he waited. He had some kind of little hide there, and he hid there, and he just popped out. They said he shot him about 30 seconds after Trump started to. I mean, I would think you would want to wait maybe 5 or 10 minutes into the speech, they're not on alert. It's right after Trump started. This one woman said it was a 30-second rally. So I thought it was target of opportunity. The Secret Service, like I said earlier, everything's taken over by bureaucrats. So the people in charge suck, the bureaucrats suck, and all these places. So the Secret Service is pretty bad at the top. And then we're going to talk about the Biden campaign later, but I'll just say for the Biden campaign, I think this helps them get Joe out, right? Because Trump looks so strong and Biden looks so out in outer space. And it just makes the case Biden can't beat Trump. Trump's like Mason said, the rock and roll star with his fist in the air, and Biden can't even complete a sentence, and he got Obama against him, Clooney and all that. I think it helps him get Joe out probably after the RNC convention, get someone new in there, maybe pick them at the DNC convention, sort it out at DNC convention, and then they have a good shot to beat Trump. And it's better for them because it's it was serious and it showed Trump being strong to get Joe out, but they didn't kill Trump, which would have created this huge mess. Because if Biden wins after they kill Trump, it's going to be a civil war, basically. I don't know. I think it's good for Biden campaign. That's the last of my stuff.
It's good for Biden? There's no way it's good for Biden.
I was talking to one of my best friends this morning. I'm staying at a friend's house for just a long weekend, but Trump said that he needed his shoes. And they were like, well, why wouldn't he have his shoes on? When they went into that dog pile, I think he had hands on every square inch of his body, and they yanked his shoes off looking for entry and exit wounds. And, it's a violent thing when a combat medic puts hands on you to make sure you're okay. They check everywhere. But
you mean everywhere?
Yeah, everywhere. You're
getting car his asshole.
Yeah, that's part of the move. But they had him standing back up in seconds, and his first impulse was to raise his right hand and say fight. If you reverse that and had him crying and saying, "Don't shoot me, oh God, I don't want to die," and crying, his election would be over. But of the way to get shot while running for president, he did it perfectly. It was great. You couldn't ask for a better aftermath of that.
This man is so lucky. I cannot believe that bullet went through his ear. Can you believe that?
I don't think he should get a plastic surgeon to fix it. I think he should leave the scar.
Okay. All right. Who's got some more response?
I agree. How do they not have like at least a local police officer standing on each one of those rooftops? Like there were 3 buildings.
Or just in the parking lot. Like, Jesus. It's mind-boggling. And January 6th, the Capitol Police shit the bed. These guys shit the bed yesterday. It's all with the planning and resourcing. It's these people at the top. They're just out to lunch.
You mentioned January 6th, and I think that's a good comparison, which again, I think January 6th was a lot of idiots. How many politicians have recently made violent statements towards Trump? I think those need to be addressed in some way, like violent statements towards Trump in the last few years. Well, now maybe those statements need to be seen as actually threatening, as opposed to just like humor, as they've been looked at for the last 4 years. I feel like maybe that should be a change in discourse, because there's a lot of people that are using violent rhetoric towards Trump very casually.
The problem is it's a knife edge, because you got your First Amendment rights, right? And I do believe that even if a politician says it and they're drawing a call to arms, it wouldn't necessarily be a violent act itself, but a call for violence has a specific criminal charge. I don't know if it's currently enforced or if they would, because the people that make the rules are the ones doing it, which is the problem.
I hate to restrict speech in any way. I think if you say someone should commit this act of violence against this person, that's wrong. And I don't think that's covered by free speech. But they've used language like putting crosshairs over a candidate that they want to take out of office. Like we're going after this guy's district. We want that seat in Congress to be ours. I have trouble thinking that fires somebody to go commit violence. There's a lot more political violence going on beyond just speech. From when Trump was initially elected to now, how many billions of dollars in rioting has Antifa done? There was the congressional baseball team that got shot up. There's been dozens of attempts where people have been caught outside of lawmakers and justices' homes with weapons. We've been in a slow civil war for 8 years now, and it could take one little spark. Like if Trump had been assassinated yesterday, there's no telling what the aftermath of that would be. It's hard to imagine a way back to the peaceful years of the 1990s when we just argued with each other and nobody was getting that kind of rhetoric. I don't know how you get more civil once you've gotten this uncivil. And it's scary.
So I was watching Fox News this morning, and I think it was Pete Hegseth. He said he was texting with some people or whatever in the Trump family, and they're saying that they're convinced that it was, and they like the Secret Service people around them, but that they think there was a negligence, which basically everybody can see that, right?
Yeah, but we're not going to know that for a while.
I don't know how big the Secret Service is completely, like how many people are in the whole agency, but I saw 3 sub 6 foot females that probably weighed 120 to 140 pounds that were immediately on Trump, and they got on him. But why doesn't the guy that's on him look like Shaq and have a black belt in jiu-jitsu and operator experience? I feel like there's enough guys like that in government with that kind of background that could be on Biden and Trump and the most highly protected people. It just seems like maybe DEI made some decision making of who's going to be on this team, and instead of having the best, you had the most representative. And I don't know that that's what we need for protecting Joe Biden and Donald Trump and our highest level assets in the government from threats like this.
I don't think that was the problem here, but in general, having having physically imposing men versus, well-trained professional women, I guess there might be a benefit there, but this was like a planning thing. I don't know if it's the resources.
I want to know who gave the op order and who planned out who's covering the building and why like how many years they had and how they got that job. I'm just curious. And
that career's over with.
Yeah.
You're done.
Matt, you opened up with it. Like there were 2 people that were killed in the background, I believe. That is, shit.
Well, there's the image of the bullet passing Trump. It's a long stretched out line. I don't know if you saw that, but I think that's the bullet that went on into the crowd and killed a person. And then the actual shooter himself was taken out by the counter sniper. And then there were 2 more critically injured people. So one fatality was the shooter, 1 fatality was an attendee, and then there were 2 other injuries.
So I hope those 2 other injuries aren't too bad.
Prayers for rapid healing.
Well, it's a high-powered rifle round, so it's going to fuck you up.
What was the weapon? Has that been identified yet?
I've heard AR, but not a confirmation on the caliber, and there's a lot of calibers that could be in an AR platform. Probably 223.
So moving on to the Biden campaign, and Mace, you said earlier that I said that the shooting was good for Biden. What I said, it was good for the Biden campaign. not Biden himself. I think it makes Biden leave, but that's what the campaign needs. And all those people will roll to the next person. So for those people who are trying to get Joe out, I think it is good. But the first article about the Biden campaign is about how the Biden campaign thinks that Obama and his minions are the ones behind this push and this drive to get him out of the race. Well, this includes the famous George Clooney op-ed in the New York Times, which is devastating, and then the Pod Save America bros that were basically the Obama guys. They've been talking shit about Biden from even before the debate. What do you guys think about Obama, puppet master behind the Joe pass the torch effort?
I mean, everybody's kind of been saying that Joe Biden's like, Weekend at Bernie's, and Obama's going to be the number one puppeteer.
Someone has to focus the message. Someone has to be the quarterback of this get the Joe the fuck out of here thing. Barack Obama doesn't want Trump come back, obviously. He obviously doesn't think Joe can win. So he's stepping into this role of being this like shadow campaigner against Biden's candidacy at this point.
I mean, a good joke about it, I would say, is I guess they really thought Biden lost that debate, huh?
Yeah, I was going to say that. I mean, the fact that, there's probably these crazy guys everywhere, but like somebody would like basically suicide themselves for just a chance to kill Donald Trump means that this kid thought that Donald Trump was like a shoo-in to win. At least this kid was like, I got to do something. You know what I mean? So it does seem as though Trump is on the rise, but it's like the poll numbers are basically the same. And that's what Biden's using to be like, I'm not leaving, because he's like, the poll numbers haven't really shifted. But do you trust the polls? Because they were wrong last time and they can be manipulated very easily. Just
from a healthcare standpoint, I don't want to jump too soon to think that this guy, the 20-year-old shooter, thought he was dying an honorable death and that he had to. And it may turn out that he was in love with Jodie Foster or something equivalent. It could be really bizarre mental illness and not political ideology. He was a registered Republican that had donated $15 to the Democratic Party. I don't know what's going on there from a motive. Hopefully there's a manifesto we have access, or his father can come out and explain. As far as Obama pulling the strings, I remember arguing with somebody about the Hunter Biden laptop, and they're like, well, Hunter Biden's not running for president, Joe Biden is. But now Hunter Biden's attending security meetings with his father and help guiding him like Wormtongue from Lord of the Rings. He's there around his father all day long every day. And so is Jill. I think both of them, Jill likes the lavish lifestyle, and Hunter really needs a pardon before his dad gives up the seat. So I think both of them have motivation to keep this charade on. All sorts of defense contractors, Zelensky, the Israelis. There's a lot of people that have interest in continuing the status quo beyond Obama. I think Obama's definitely has some influence on the current White House staff, but I think there's a lot of people trying to get a piece of that pie.
That's the game in D.C. A lot of the people are there. What you see is a 10% swing in Republican, Democrat, and just voting. That's 10 to 20% unemployment in D.C. It's a huge swing for those guys.
I think he's been pulling the strings all along, ever since he stepped into the Oval Office. So for him to be manipulating the campaign, I think is just another part of the greater tactic for him.
He's staying in. I think he's staying in. Anybody else think he's staying in?
I think no, I never thought he was going to stay in.
I don't know the legal implications of him leaving right now and the superdelegates, and how do they put Newsom or Michelle Obama or anybody else in and have access to the war chest. I don't know what's legally possible to get somebody else on that ticket right now other than Kamala.
You didn't even mention Kamala Harris.
As far as I know about the campaign funds and stuff like that, obviously Joe would have to voluntarily leave. With regard to the campaign funds and the staff and everything, if he voluntarily leaves, he's basically going to give his campaign over. They'll get someone at the DNC to pick whoever they pick. I think it has to be either Michelle Obama or Kamala Harris. If it's not someone who's black, then the Congressional Black Caucus is going to get mad. They'll lose anyway there. So they'll sort that out. Biden essentially will close down his campaign. All the staff in one day will essentially go over to this new campaign. When you close down political campaign, I believe that you either have to give that money to a charity or you have to give it to another political campaign or organization or something like that. Because it used to be that the politicians could just keep it and put it in their pocket. You know what I'm saying? But they can't do that anymore. So I don't think there's a problem with replacing him. I never thought he was going to be able to complete this. It's just a matter of time until the right people get there in his face and are like, hey, you got to go. And that is mainly Congressional Black Caucus. If he loses the African-American support, that's the only thing he's clutching to right now. Or the Obamas, the Clintons, they all want him to go. A lot of people in Congress want him to go. Basically, nobody wants him to go or wants him to stay. But Matt mentioned the tight cordon that the family has around Joe Biden. I don't think Hunter Biden is like a hard on to be in all these president meetings and everything, but they want to not let him alone with these people who could deliver a heart to heart with him and convince him that he's out, because the family doesn't want him out. Biden family does not care about America. They want to maintain the Biden family. So that's what I think the cordon is around him. Anybody else? Joe and Jill, or Hunter and Jill?
I don't think Kamala's electable personally. I don't know.
Michelle Obama?
No, Kamala Harris.
Oh, yeah, that's up in the air.
I don't think Michelle Obama, I mean, she's a multimillionaire on the beach getting paid by Netflix and all these other people for appearances. Why would she want to put herself through that?
So I think she has 2 daughters, and she doesn't want to see Trump in the White House, and she might be the only person that can do it, because nobody can go over Kamala Harris because she's next in line unless they're black. So it has to be a black person.
The realistic solution then, if I'm wrong and Biden pulls out, which I don't think he will, is the Democrats, the smart play is to have Biden pull out. Like the long-term play for the Democrat Party is to have Biden pull out, let Kamala Harris take over and just get crushed and let her career end. They can just say, like, we gave you your chance, and they can move on.
She's done either way. We talked about this the other week. She's done either way. You know what I mean? Because she can never get elected president. The only way she's going to be president is if Joe gets elected and then he dies.
Yes.
So, and they know that, but they might just be like, hey, we want to run Kamala because we don't want to pass her up. She's like the first black vice president, and then we think she can do a good job. And she has been stepping up. Like her speeches, she's been stepping into her own since the Biden stuff, because she realizes now she has the opportunity to supersede him. So she's got her A game going. She looks pretty good, but I don't know if she can do it. But, you know, they've got a lot of powerful people behind them. They can prop her up really well. And, you know, she might have a fighting chance against Trump. I think Trump probably wins, but, I mean, she might beat him.
How do you beat Trump right now? He's the most rock star thing in American history right now.
Just a lot of people don't want more Trump. Only about 33% of people in the whole country would want Trump. Basically, hardcore Republicans. So all you got to do for the Democrats is just peel off enough independents to, like, keep him out. And he'll be done. So after the debate, and this is a little, you know, now, but like the analysis in, I believe, Politico was that there were a lot of errors made by the Biden team after the debate to clean up the mess. And it's been this snowballing. And then he did the Zelensky-Putin gaffe, the NATO Summit.
I've said before, Russia will not prevail in this war. Ukraine will prevail in this war. And we'll stand with them every single step of the way. That's what the compact says, loudly and clearly. And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. You can beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
Thank you so much.
And then he had that shitty press conference where he like did okay, but was still kind of like an old bitch. And so these errors are saying after the debate, he was giving brief, quiet speeches at fundraising events for like 5 or 6 minutes, no questions, you know, mumbling, same shit. So it's like reinforcing what happened at the debate. It goes against that argument where it's like it was the bad debate, it was a bad 20 minutes, it was a bad night, whatever. They're saying that the Biden campaign did not grasp the full scope of the debacle, which I could see potentially because they are kind of like in that Biden world. They're looking at polling, like they're not really in touch with all the people out there, like normal people. And they've been putting up this like fake, you know, Wizard of Oz shit in front of us for all these months and maybe even over a year to let us think that Biden's okay and that he's going to run again. So they might have been like just high on their own supply. They were saying, and these are donors basically, they're saying that the talking points sucked, and people privately are saying that he has no path to win, but publicly they support him. But when they talk to him privately, they're like, there's no path. There's like no way you can win this. And the donor exodus was larger than they expected from this bad night. And one of the donors said that out of the people that he talks to, which are probably like other donors because they're rich, that is 10-1 people who want Biden to switch out or pass the torch and people who want Biden to stay. 10-1 from this guy's estimate or person's estimate.
I agree that it's snowballed, but I didn't think he did as badly as everybody made it out to be.
The debate.
Yeah, he lost, but he didn't die on stage.
He didn't lose. He just shit the bed. He couldn't even put a sentence together. Remember where he beat Medicare? Like,
well, I mean, yeah, and he forgot about veterans. Like, I mean,
oh yeah, the 13.
If you called an Uber and a guy just like Joe Biden showed up and you couldn't explain to him where you wanted to go, and he couldn't explain to you back where he thought you were going, would you let that guy drive you anywhere? Or if you were at Starbucks and he took your order, would you think you were going to get your correct coffee, or you'd be like, oh, this is going to be messed up? He's not able to do normal things. And he's on stage. We can all tell. If he came in my ER, I would not do anything to him without getting a family member to give me consent. He's not all there, obviously, just talking to him.
He's a walking, talking, bumbling idiot. I mean, leader of the free world that just wants to retire and eat ice cream on the beach, sit in a rocking chair, but his family's pushing him along and saying, hey, we like this. You're going to do this, old man.
I think he'd be happy to stay president, but I mean, he can't complete the campaign. I mean, there's just no way. A final point on the debate response is like, yeah, the campaign didn't do that good of a job, but I mean, they're dealt a losing hand. I mean, like, this is their candidate. Like, even if they did a good job after the debate, it's not going to make a difference. You got Obama going against you. Like, you're going to lose. They're going to attrit you down until he has to quit. So last part of this Biden campaign thing is the House Democrats' misery, where Hakeem Jeffries is relaying the members of the House, their concerns to Biden as like the conduit into the White House to be like, hey, bro, they have profound pessimism. And like I said before, his only allies left are the Congressional Black Caucus, right? Which is powerful, especially within the Democrat Party, but then it's not going to help him beat Trump because he's going to have to win independents, and he can't, he's already got their votes basically. And a lot of people think Trump might get more of the black vote than he did before. So they're worried they're going to lose the House, right? Because most people think they will lose the Senate. It's looking like Trump's going to win. The only thing they have left is the House. Otherwise, it's like a free-for-all for the Republicans to just like rebuild the whole country. Plus, they'll get 2 Supreme Court justices. I mean, it's going to be – if they take all 3 branches, it's going to be Trump time. So what do you guys think about the House Democrats? They want to win their races and so on. So
how close is it for the balance of power in each one? I actually didn't look at that leading in.
In the House – we're talking about the House?
Both House and Senate.
The Republicans have the House now by like 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever. But if they flip that, they think they're going to flip the Senate. So if they get the House too, that's like the nightmare scenario. And then that's why that's why I'm saying I think Michelle Obama comes in, because like we know we can't win with Kamala. They might be able to save the House with Kamala, but they're not going to win the White House with her. And it's like, if you're a House Democrat trying to get reelected, or you're trying to get elected for the first time, whatever, if Biden stays in, your goose is cooked. You know what I mean? Like, the down ballot effects are going to just crush you. You might as well just quit now, basically. So they all want him to go because he's bringing them down. He's dragging down the whole party. And they see it. And they talk to people, too. They hate it, this old Biden shit.
I mean, without Biden, the party fragments. It would probably be an even bigger swing. Probably their best chance of holding on to any majority or even semblance of a majority, the Democrats being they, would have to be for Biden to stay in, because otherwise they just fragment immediately.
Well, I mean, the only split they have is between the progressive wing and the moderates, basically. So they have to stick together to beat Trump and to face the Republicans. So I don't think the party splinters, but there's obviously like a succession battle, like some Game of Thrones shit, to who's going to replace Biden. And we already talked about the dynamics of that, but no, I don't think they split. It's a faction. They're just 2 factions. It's not Trump versus Biden. It's the Democrat versus Republican. You're going to vote for whoever the Republican is. That's why I said Don Jr. is going in there. He's got Trump. It's still going to be Trump on the ballot. That's it. That's a faction. So that's what you're voting for. And it's not going to change, but Biden's age is dragging them down with independence. And
Elon Musk came out and endorsed Trump today.
How do you not endorse Donald Trump right now?
I did not see that. Well, you got to see that coming. And he's kind of more on the conservative side.
That was almost immediately after the shooting.
He also said that their Secret Service was negligent.
Well, they were. But yeah, I pulled up X on my phone while we were watching the news, and I saw the picture that Elon Musk posted. I didn't correlate that to him endorsing him. But yeah, that was almost immediately. And there were there were a couple other talking heads that we listened to, and they said that there were the whole thing brought a lot of support for Trump. A lot of CEOs of companies and things like that are trying to publicly or privately endorse Trump now.
What do you guys think the polls will reflect? One of you guys said he's going to go up 10 points. I don't think that you said it, Matt?
Roosevelt and Reagan both got a 10-point bump after their assassination attempts. So that's historical. I don't know that there's any science behind it, but I think if you are on the edge or you didn't think Trump was presidential. The past 2 weeks, he's been quite presidential. He was a lot well behaved during the debate compared to normal Trump. And he got right back up and held his fist in the air and said, fight. And then the tweets that he sent since then have been very good. I think he gets a 10-point bump, plus or minus 2 points.
I don't know what his bump will be, but I definitely think that a lot of support is going to swing his way.
I think he's going to I think we're just more bifurcated now, so it's not going to be that much, but probably temporarily 4 or 5 point bump. It might last for 6 weeks or so. But I think, especially if the Democrats replace Joe Biden, that essentially the race settles back where it is, which is like a dead heat. And then it's kind of just down to the swing states and the Electoral College. And, it's basically up in the air. The third topic I was interested in was the NATO Summit, which was in D.C. last week, and the traffic was shitty and everything. So there are a couple different stories coming out of there. One is that the U.S., Iceland, Switzerland, and Sweden are working on a plan for internet doomsday, where the internet traffic between Northern Europe and the United States, which gets relayed through undersea cables currently, that if those cables were cut or destroyed in a disaster or a deliberate attack from like Russia or something, the internet would immediately get relayed through satellites down to Europe, and that NATO could keep communicating, because without the internet, we'd be kind of shit out of luck. So they're saying that Russia's mapping out our key infrastructure, and that it would only take 3 or 4 bombs to entirely cut off Iceland from the rest of the world. So it seems like a real concern. If they're interested in doing this, they must think that it's a concern, or they must have intercepted some Russian intelligence, or they have some spy in Russia that says this, because this essentially would be Russia doing this. I thought it was kind of interesting. Obviously, we just need the internet these days. It's like electricity. We need it. The military needs it. It's critical infrastructure. So,
it's a smart contingency operation to plan for. That should be something that any military defensive strategy, that in your first step in your playbook, should be able to handle.
Have you all commented on the past on who took out Nord Stream?
Well, we speculated in the beginning, but when in the old show, but it was the Ukrainians, which, makes sense. But I didn't think they had that capability, but they're crafty.
What do you think it was, Matt?
I think we were knowledgeable of it, if not the ones that did it when it happened.
Well, it was the Ukrainians that did it. Now, did we tell them to do it or whatever? I don't know. But
give a little assist.
I don't know. Who knows? They're obviously not going to say if they did. The Ukrainians took a boat out there and they had divers. The shit's easy as fuck. So easy, Ukrainian could do it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm just kidding. They're great.
Well, but to your point, and Mason's point, it's why you got to have a backup and contingency plan for strategic communications. I wouldn't be surprised if there's already some form of it. It's just maybe they're looking at expanding it to a larger amount, because there are a lot of communications that bounce off satellites.
There's some satellites that are all military, and there's some satellites that are basically civilian satellites, civilian communications. So I think another thing that this shows is that these people must know, and it's pretty obvious, that these undersea cables under the sea, in any conflict, they're toast. Like, that shit's gone on day one. Because any Russian sub could just come on in, they know where they are, they'll have a diver go down, or they just shoot a torpedo out or whatever. That shit's done. So you cannot count on these internet cables. And then on top of that, they're going to go to satellites. Well, what happens when they knock out the cables and they shoot down our satellites with their space weapons?
You got to have space superiority.
We don't. All right, so talking about NATO, obviously Ukraine war is a big thing for NATO. It seems like it's on towards the end of the war. It's almost 3 years, or been 3 years. They're saying that there's increasing pressure on Zelensky to do a ceasefire and or negotiation ending the war. There's a pro-Russia bloc forming in Europe, which is southeastern Europe. It's mainly around, out of Hungary. Viktor Orban, who was the first kind of Europe leader, that he's the only one who's gone to meet with Putin since the war started. And then some of these other countries like Slovakia, Czechoslovakia, Austria, they're not necessarily supporting Putin, but they're like, let's stop it, ceasefire. So that's basically what Putin wants. So they're calling them pro-Russia bloc. Apparently, Viktor Orban met with Zelensky, and he sat down with him, and he tried to convince him to call a ceasefire. Zelensky refused because Russia would use the break in fighting to reaccumulate their forces at the front line and then to launch new attacks later. Russia is in a pretty good position, mainly, I think, because after the kind of debacle at the beginning of the Russian invasion, that Putin panicked and he fired some people or whatever, he reinvigorated their economy. It's really weird, but they've survived these sanctions, which I thought were pretty effective and hurt them a bit, but it's now called Putinomics. where there's this Keynesian effect in their economy. Increased military spending has basically lifted all boats. So the people are actually like doing okay because he's just like pumping money into the economy because of the war. They've militarized their entire economy and they're ready to just fight war on a long-term basis, which I didn't think they would really be able to do. They've got more recruits than Ukraine. If Trump comes in, Trump wants to end the war day one. He probably will. It'll probably be negotiated through a third party because Putin and Zelensky aren't going to talk. So someone's got to come in the middle. It's probably us and a couple other countries.
Wars in Ukraine and Russia take a pause in the winter months anyway. If everybody's already snowed in, are you really going to pause any harder, or are you just going to wait for the spring? I think Zelensky likes the money stream he's getting. I don't see him incentivized to quit. If you cut his money off, he'll quit. But if he's still getting funding from all the Western countries, isn't he going to continue that?
I agree. He's going to keep fighting until, like, as long as Biden's in. And it seems like every month there's like a new gift from Biden to Ukraine. I don't really know what Trump's going to do. Like, is he going to continue funding for over there? Would he escalate troops, or would he be like, guess what? America has no say in a war between Russia and Ukraine.
The Trump plan, and he said this, is he's going to go to Zelensky and he's going to be like, if you don't negotiate, we're cutting you off. And then he's going to go to Russia and he's say, if you don't negotiate, we're going to give them everything. You know what I mean? And so that's a Trump plan, but which will probably work. So
I think Trump was going to do exactly what he's campaigning on, which is he's going to end it as soon as he can.
Militarily, then, the Russians should be just hoping to hold ground until Biden's possibly out, and the Ukrainians need to take as much as they can before Biden gets out.
They can't attack anymore. They don't have enough men.
Right. So
I think the new front lines are going to be the new borders of Ukraine at the end of this.
Yeah.
That's pretty obvious. I just want to respond because what something Matt said. So Matt was saying how there's the winter and they're going to pause the war anyway. But the issue is that Russia has been purposely attacking Ukrainian energy infrastructure. So they've got major energy problems in Ukraine. The reason why they want him to stop the war before December is after the American election. So we kind of know our fate with that. And then they don't want to go through another wartime winter where their families are freezing. They don't have electricity to cook their food. You know, their lives are disrupted. They just want it over with. We have been giving a lot of money. They've been getting a lot of money, but they're spending a lot too. And they're actually, I mean, Putin's in a better financial position than Ukraine is. Ukraine has a $5 billion deficit going next year. They've had to cut pensions, they're cutting salaries, other stuff. They're making cuts everywhere. They don't have enough money because even though we started funding them again, we were just sending them weapons. In the beginning of the war, we were sending them weapons and we were paying for their pensions. We were paying for their firefighters. We were paying for their almost their entire economy because they really didn't have, you know, the GDP to fight the war and pay all this other shit. The financial pressure is increasing on him. The manpower, the Russian manpower is coming online. They've got all types of advantages over Zelensky, and the Ukrainian Congress basically wants it to stop. Or they have like a Kremlin. They don't have, I don't know what they have over there. So whatever it is. But the other people want to fucking stop. So it seems like it's going to an end game.
So if it stops and they have these new lines that you kind of just mentioned, do you think Putin's like satisfied for a couple of years? Because I mean, that is standard like appeasement when you think about Hitler's march, right? He's going to regroup. Will he hit Ukraine again, or will he go to somewhere else?
I think he's going to do something because he doesn't have that many years left. So he's going to be thinking about his succession. He's going to be thinking maybe, you know, get one more here or there, one more victory. Because this would be a big victory from him. Like, I mean, I thought the whole thing might collapse. I think there was an assassination attempt on him at some point. There was a Ukrainian, assassination attempt on him. I think he keeps playing until he can't anymore.
So you think he's going to invade somewhere else if this is peace? So it's not really a peace.
It's like a demilitarized zone. It's like a North Korea, South Korea situation. Like there'll be troops all up and down. It'll all be mined. There'll be fences and tank traps and all that shit. You won't be able to cross the border, basically.
It was Kant said, there's no such thing as a peace treaty, only a contract for the conditions of the next war. Putin's going to Putin.
I like it.
That's pessimistic. I'm just kidding. All right. Project 2025, yeah, I heard of it, is the conservative playbook of how they're going to, once Trump comes back in, they're going to take control of the government day one, start like decapitating all these departments, get rid of all these career bureaucrats, start putting their people in charge of everything. They have a laundry list of reforms in every area of the government that they want to, you know, trim and change and this and that. So I figured we would talk a little bit about it. It's 920 pages long. It's a lot. I read the part on veterans and the Veterans Administration. It was boring, but I did read it because I didn't want to talk about it without just making sure it was in there. I read an article, a summary of it too. And the summary was basically saying how they wanted to replace the top leadership of the Veterans Administration with political appointees. You have to expect that. I'm cool with that because they're not good. And then they also said in this article that they want the Project 2025 wants to eliminate concurrent benefits, or to restructure them. So if you were disabled and then you retired, you basically get like a double take or whatever, and then they would rejigger that somehow to save money. And then they made it seem like it would be for like or it could be for people who like already been through this benefits awards process and stuff, or could it be for people in the future? Obviously more reasonable to do it for people, make changes for the future. You can't take this stuff away from people. They'll go bananas if you do that. So this article, I think, was kind of being scaremongering, like, oh, they might take away your benefits. But I think if you already have them, it's safe. And then they're also interested in lowering, or it says in this summary, I didn't read too much about this in the actual Project 2025, but that they want to remove disability from low priority groups. So like people that were not injured in combat and other stuff like that, they think could save them billions of dollars. Obviously, they want a smaller government. A lot of this disability stuff is kind of like welfare for veterans, and we all really like know it. You know what I mean? If you're a veteran, like it's kind of like a little bit of extra money because you did it when you were younger. It like helps these veterans to build a stable life. Because I mean, if we didn't have all this like disability benefits and stuff, there'd be like so many more homeless veterans because they wouldn't be able to, they don't have that guaranteed check. You know, that's like the foundation of their financial future, really. So this, you know, they want to reduce this welfare for veterans a bit, which is like, it's welfare, but it's for veterans. So kind of like a two-edged thing there. Did you guys read into the Project 2025, or what do you think about the points that I brought up?
I think as a physician, and I've helped a lot of veterans apply for benefits, and I see a lot of guys that encounter me professionally that have veterans benefits, there's a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse in the system. And all of us know that. And I would also tell you, I know a lot of guys who are legitimately injured really bad, and they were too proud to go get their benefits, and they still don't. I would like to fix both of those situations. But this goes back to any government aid is very little incentive to avoid fraud, waste, and abuse. It's a hard thing to do. If you put a pile of free money in and say this is only for the people who really need it, everybody wants it. It's hard to write a law to regulate it or create a system to where there won't be that. The system's going to be bankrupt if we don't fix it. So something's got to be done.
I would say I agree with that, and probably shift more to a healthcare focus as opposed to a bureaucrat focus would be the number one step.
Well, the Veterans Administration doesn't just do healthcare, but it's obviously the healthcare portion of it is massive.
Trump and his campaign have come out and said that that's not his plan. That's not what he's planning on doing. And as one of the other things, he's distancing himself from Project 2025. Because when I was sent that, the Trump campaign said, hey, this isn't ours. We're going to distance ourselves from it. And it was pretty early on when it first came out. But what's in it's interesting. I think everybody's trying to always come up with a new structure for the VA to help veterans because, as Matt said, there's a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse, and the ability to do that is pretty easy because every once in a while there'll be an article of some kid made out millions using fake disability claims that somehow got through the system, right? So there's always going to be an ability to defraud. And whenever I'm talking to veterans, there are probably more of them that are too proud to even tap into the system because even though my viewpoint of you sacrificed your body and this is you rented it to the government and now they're paying you damages, that's not necessarily the viewpoint of a lot of the people I talk to. They're like, nope, I served my country, I'm just gonna suck it up and drive on.
Yeah, there's different attitudes towards it. So when I read it, one thing that they talked about was that we're in this period right now of this like transition from the Vietnam veterans into the post 9/11 veterans. You have these like two kind of like lumps of veterans, and the Vietnam veterans are entering end of life expectancy, and then a lot of the 9/11 people are starting to use their disabilities more. So the number of people that the Veterans Administration has to take care of is growing. They want to make a lot of cut. Well, I mean, they want to cut abortions and gender reassignment. That's obviously they want to do that. So I mean, it is what it is. One thing I thought that was interesting they mentioned was the Veterans Bill of Rights, but I think it would be more around like focused on the VA itself. Like I had the idea, and I was talking about like a service person's Bill of Rights, which would carry on after. It's more encompassing because it encompasses like while you're in the service too, but they're going to do some sort of Veterans Bill of Rights so that the VA and the veteran know exactly what the veteran is entitled to. and that it's clear. They want to bring wait times into compliance, reduce waiting times on adjudicating disability claims, remove career SES. It's mostly bureaucrat stuff. Most people wouldn't really care about it all that much. But one thing that they want to do that might affect a lot of people is Trump had this like community-based healthcare in the VA where they would have smaller clinics that were like distributed, because a lot of veterans are rural. It's hard for them to like come all the way up to the city all the time. And so they have these very big like VA medical center campuses in the cities usually that are very, very big. And supposedly, I guess they're very, very expensive. So it's like cheaper to have the community-based centers. So they want to transition to that. A bunch of other kind of just bureaucrat stuff. But I didn't see anything about the benefits and like taking away benefits. But definitely in the future, they might make it harder to get disability in the future. But I can't say for sure. I mean, that might need to happen. I don't know. But, you know, veterans have to be taken care of, whether it's disability or they get like a little stipend or whatever. I mean, these guys need that safety after, because like the serving the military really sets you back. I've been realizing it a lot recently since I've been going through, you know, career stuff or whatever. But it's like, you know, if you're in the military when you're young, like you're basically not getting corporate experience. Like you're not getting your college. You have to get like Matt was saying he got his college like after the military and everything like that. It kind of sets you back on a professional career path. A lot of people overcome it, especially if they have like a strong family around them, or maybe they have like a good wife or something like that. But, you know, sometimes people like just can't like put their lives together after the military. And the military itself, especially in some of these places like we were, they take care of everything for you. Like everything's regimented out. Like, you always know what you're doing. A lot of guys just stay in because they just want to know they always have a meal coming and there's always like a barracks roof over their head or whatever. And you just never grow up. And so I don't know if it needs to be disability welfare or what, but if they start cutting this stuff off and there's always fucked up people out there, it's just going to, the suicide rate's going to go up. There's going to be more kids without their parent or their father usually. And sometimes mother too, whatever. I mean, we'll see what they do when it actually happens. Do you guys have anything else on Project 2025?
I mean, they're spending money on everything, $200 billion for every single person except for veterans, it seems. There's no reason to cut that off.
What's welfare? I mean, maybe it should be restructured. I mean, you know, there's people out there, they're getting 100% disability and they're like doing CrossFit Games shit, like walking around on their hands. And I mean, they might have some problems and some pains and stuff like that, but they like can work or whatever. It's really like this stabilizing welfare effect. All right, guys. Well, that was an interesting show. It's great that we got four of my good, or I guess I am friends with myself, four of my good friends here. And my show has been, we got the new format. We got four people. I got four people up next week. I'm trying to remember. It's Doug, Ted, and Marie, Jesse's wife. So thanks to them. And we'll get that going next week. Thanks to you all for being here. And if you want to take a second to say goodbye, sure. Go ahead.
Thank you for having me. I apologize I didn't do the homework or the reading before I came, but this was last minute. But if I come back, I'll be more prepared.
Great. We'll definitely come back.
Trump 2024. I mean, the most rock star shit since I've been alive.
All right, Jesse.
Yeah. No, it's going to be great because he's going to be our next president based on yesterday's activity. So thanks for having me. We'll get Maria on next week. We'll talk to you guys next time. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited that the show's coming together, new format and everything, like right before this crazy presidential election and all this stuff. So hopefully we have some good news to cover from the veteran perspective. And I hope everyone enjoyed this and you come back next week. So thanks a lot. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Thank you.